And now we have Robby Bishop, who is an academic advisor for exploratory studies at UW. He previously worked as a teacher, both in the Czech Republic and in Texas, and moved to Laramie in 2020 for his master's in English. His research focuses on the individual, institutional, and cultural tendencies that prevent people from viewing others as credible and capable knowers.
So I believe that a vital democracy depends on people coming together to know things about their social world and responding to what they learn about in those environments. The increasing use of the term echo chamber is a sign that we're aware of how our communities affect what we know and believe, but I think it also points to how we might be thinking about these dynamics in the wrong way. Echo chamber is a term of critique. We use it to describe how people can isolate themselves among those who think similarly, thus increasing confidence in their beliefs and making it likely that those beliefs become entrenched or extreme. As that happens, people are said to become incapable of understanding different views. The issue with this way of thinking is that it imagines that we can and should avoid having our beliefs echoed and affirmed. The theory implies that if you find yourself in an echo chamber, your duty is to escape it. You have to be on guard against people who might radicalize you simply because they agree with you. The ideal is critical distance, and it's a highly individualistic way of taking responsibility. It suggests that good ideas can stand on their own without support from others. It implies that knowing things well only means avoiding error, presenting a limited vision of what it takes to form socially beneficial beliefs or what it takes to influence a culture in a positive direction. Today, we're in a situation in which anyone you disagree with can be described as trapped in an echo chamber. That's because it's really quite natural to surround yourself with people you agree with, and that's not always a bad thing. The issue should be what you're agreeing on or agreeing to, whether the beliefs formed are democratic or exclusionary. Solidarity does have a very important political function, but without being able to distinguish between good echo chambers and bad ones, it becomes difficult to say what that function is. It becomes difficult to say how movements working towards social justice are an important part of democracy, and movements working against it are not, and often barriers to democracy. Thus, the idea I've been working on, with the help of this amazing team of philosophers, is the need to have a conception of democratic echo chambers, or communal spaces that nurture socially just beliefs and commitments, contributing to the development of a positive cultural ethos. Reconceptualizing the echo chamber starts with recognizing that the risk of forming socially harmful beliefs in a homogeneous social environment is not the same for everyone. The risk depends on larger social dynamics, on how often and how prominently your views are questioned or accepted without question. Just as we speak of an unlevel playing field in regard to social, economic, and political opportunities, we should also speak of an unlevel knowing field in regard to how easily people achieve confidence in their beliefs and how likely that confidence will make them ignorant of other views or even hostile to them. We can also call attention to this dynamic by describing an asymmetry in echoing. In other words, people's beliefs and viewpoints don't echo equally throughout society. Those in dominant positions find their views echoed prominently and persistently. Those in non-dominant positions, much less frequently. This asymmetry should prevent us from universalizing the problem of bad echo chambers. They are a risk for people who typically have their beliefs go unquestioned, who typically don't feel the need to consider other views, and who often forget that they have a voice because it is supported or echoed by others. We should definitely work to prevent bad echo chambers from forming, but we should also strive to create good echo chambers, spaces that reduce the asymmetry in echoing. And as this art exhibit suggests, there might be an important emotional component too. To gain a better idea what it would mean to create a good echo chamber, it's helpful to think about what the opposite of echoing is. Gail Polhaus argues that it's gaslighting, the attempt to put out of circulation a particular way of understanding the world by compelling people to change their beliefs and to stop noticing or testifying to something, with the risk of being deemed incompetent should they refuse to do so. Developing a positive sense of echoing begins with acknowledging that non-dominant or marginalized knowers are more likely to be gaslit. Thus, Polhaus first suggests the need for survival echoing, that which helps people trust and maintain their beliefs in the face of consistent pressure to doubt them. Survival echoing is what happens when people can direct their attention away from those in dominant position to question their views, toward those who have had similar experiences and who can affirm them. This sustained horizontal attention helps remove the pressure that causes people to doubt their beliefs. And that can have powerful effects. As Polhaus says, when a group of knowers is able to make sense to one another concerning those parts of the world that structural gaslighting directs them to ignore, then beliefs and claims that arise from those ignored parts of the world can reverberate more widely. This reverberation is what she calls resistance echoing, which happens when a belief comes to be spoken about and acknowledged by a wider population. The belief now has the potential to inspire positive social change, with more and more people talking about it and responding to it. The problem is that it's going to be echoed by others in highly divergent ways, some of which will stay true to its intent, others of which will distort its meaning or block its potential effects. And this is where solidarity comes in. A movement of resistance echoing needs the support of intelligent allies to help keep its meaning alive, to resist the forms of silencing that it will inevitably face. If we hear a claim of injustice, we have a duty to echo it. Jose Medina describes this as showing communicative solidarity, lending support to the voices that are less likely to be echoed and more likely to be gaslit. The very deep problem that any democracy must strive to overcome is the fact that people with the best knowledge of injustice are often ignored by those with the power to rectify that injustice. If we think carefully about how we echo others, we can take responsibility for that inequity and actively position ourselves against those who seek to maintain it. We can work to create echo chambers for democracy, coalitional spaces that intensify our commitments to equality and to justice. Thank you.